Astrid and the Cloud Serpent. In a time of relentless drought and gnawing hunger, the small village of Skogium, nestled deep within a valley where ancient fir trees usually thrived, found itself parched and desperate. The once lush meadows were brittle, their grasses withered to a dusty brown. The streams, usually teeming with clear, cold water, had dwindled to trickles, their beds cracked and dry. The air, perpetually thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, now hung heavy and still, carrying only the faint, acrid smell of dry dust. The sky, usually a canvas for shifting clouds and the occasional gentle rain, was a relentless, unyielding blue, day after day, week after week. Hope, like the water, was slowly receding from the hearts of the villagers. Young Astrid, barely 17 winters old, felt the weight of her village's despair more acutely than most. Her eyes, usually bright with the spark of youth, now held a solemn, watchful gaze. She remembered the stories her grandmother, old Solveig, had told her by the crackling hearth, tales of the land's generosity, of the rhythm of the seasons, and of the ancient beings that governed the world. Most vividly, she remembered the legend of the Cloud Serpent, a colossal, mythical creature said to control the skies and the rain, a being of immense power, yet rarely seen. The village elders had tried everything. They had offered sacrifices to the Aesir, chanted ancient prayers to Thor for rain, and performed rituals by the dwindling river. But the sky remained stubbornly clear, the sun beat down with an unmerciful intensity, and the land continued to thirst. The cattle grew thin, their lowing a mournful sound that echoed through the valley. The gardens, usually bursting with life, yielded nothing but dry, brittle stalks. The laughter of children, once a common sound, was replaced by quiet whimpers and the hushed, anxious whispers of their parents. Astrid watched her people, their faces drawn with worry, their spirits slowly dimming. She saw the fear in her mother's eyes as she rationed their meager stores of dried fish and berries. She felt the hunger pangs in her own belly, a constant, dull ache. But beneath the despair, a flicker of resolve ignited within her. She recalled Solveig's words, "When all else fails, Astrid, listen to the land. Listen to the whispers of the ancient ones. Sometimes, the greatest power lies not in thunder, but in a tear." One moonless night, as the village slept a restless, uneasy sleep, Astrid slipped quietly from her longhouse. She carried only a small pouch of dried herbs, a water skin filled with the last of their precious spring water, and the ancient, weather-beaten bone flute her grandmother had given her. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a drumbeat of fear and determination. She knew the mountains above Skogium were treacherous, their peaks jagged and unforgiving, their slopes riddled with hidden crevices and loose scree. But she also knew that if the Cloud Serpent truly existed, it would reside where the earth met the heavens, where the air was thin and the world seemed to touch the stars. Her ascent began in the deep, silent darkness before dawn. The familiar path quickly gave way to rough, untrodden slopes. The air grew colder with each upward step, carrying the faint, crisp scent of rock and distant ice. The only sounds were the soft crunch of her boots on the dry earth and the steady rhythm of her own breath. She moved with a quiet purpose, her senses heightened, her mind focused on the task ahead. She climbed for hours, her muscles aching, her lungs burning with the effort. The stars, usually distant pinpricks, seemed to grow larger, brighter, closer as she ascended. As the first hint of pale light touched the eastern horizon, painting the sky in hues of bruised purple and faint rose, Astrid reached a high plateau. It was a desolate place, a vast expanse of barren rock, sculpted by ancient winds and the relentless passage of time. Here, the air was thin and still, and the silence was absolute, a profound hush that seemed to absorb all sound. She stood at the edge of the world, the jagged peaks of the mountains rising around her like the teeth of some ancient beast. She looked up at the sky. It was still that unyielding, cloudless blue. A wave of despair threatened to engulf her, but she pushed it back. Listen to the whispers. Solveig's voice echoed in her mind. Astrid closed her eyes, taking a deep, slow breath, trying to attune herself to the subtle energies of this high, ancient place. She felt the cold stone beneath her feet, the faint tremor of the earth's deep slumber, the vast, empty expanse of the sky above. Then she remembered the songs. Old Solveig had taught her many, not just the boisterous sagas of heroes, but quiet, ancient chants, melodies passed down through generations, said to soothe the spirits of the land and sky. Astrid pulled out her bone flute, its surface smooth and cool against her lips. She brought it to her mouth, and a hesitant, reedy note emerged, thin at first, then growing stronger, carrying on the still air. She began to play, a slow, mournful melody, a lament for the parched land, a plea for the sky's tears. The notes drifted upwards, weaving through the thin air, carrying her intention, her hope, her desperation. As she played, she began to chant, her voice soft but clear, reciting the ancient words Solveig had taught her. "Oh, great serpent of the sky, whose coils hold the clouds on high, hear the thirst of land below, let your sorrow gently flow. From the depths of ancient sleep, wake, O serpent, softly weep." She repeated the chant over and over, her voice gaining strength, blending with the mournful notes of the flute. The sun began to climb higher, its light harsh and unyielding, but Astrid did not falter. She focused all her being on the chant, on the melody, on the image of the Cloud Serpent. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the sky began to shift. A faint, ethereal mist, like a breath, appeared on the distant horizon. It was not a cloud, not yet, but a subtle blurring of the harsh blue. Astrid continued to play, her eyes fixed on the shifting mist, her heart quickening with a flicker of awe. The mist grew, thickening, swirling, taking on immense, serpentine forms. It coiled and stretched, vast beyond imagining, its movements slow and deliberate, like a creature waking from a very long slumber. It was not the fluffy white clouds of a summer day, but a dense, gray mass, heavy with unspoken emotion. And as it drew closer, Astrid could discern its true nature. It was Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, the colossal being whose body was said to encircle the entire world, holding it in its vast, silent embrace. But this was not the fearsome, destructive Jormungandr of the Sagas, the one destined to bring about Ragnarok. This was a different aspect, a forgotten truth. Its immense form, stretching across the heavens, was not menacing, but sorrowful. Its coils, vast and gray, seemed to sag with an ancient weariness, its presence radiating a deep, pervasive melancholy. Astrid lowered her flute, the notes dying into the still air. She gazed at the colossal serpent, her fear replaced by a wave of unexpected compassion. She saw not a monster, but a being burdened by an immense, silent grief. Its vast, cloud-like head hung low, its eyes, if it had them, seemed to be veiled by the very mist of its sorrow. "Jormungandr," Astrid whispered, her voice trembling slightly, but filled with genuine empathy. "Great serpent of Midgard, why do you weep no more?" The Cloud Serpent shifted, a slow, deliberate movement that seemed to stir the very air around her. It was not a roar, but a sigh, a vast, echoing exhalation that carried a sense of profound weariness. Astrid felt it in her bones, a deep, resonant sadness that chilled her more than the mountain air. She realized that Jormungandr's sorrow was so immense, so ancient, that it had forgotten how to weep, its tears locked away by the sheer weight of its grief. The drought was not a punishment, but a symptom of the serpent's silent suffering. Astrid knew then that her task was not to command, but to comfort. Not to demand rain, but to help an ancient being remember how to cry. She sat down on the cold rock, cross-legged, and picked up her flute again. This time, she played a different melody. It was a soft, mournful tune, one her grandmother had sung to soothe a restless child, a melody of quiet understanding and gentle empathy. She played not for rain, but for Jormungandr, for its silent sorrow, for its forgotten tears. As she played, she began to speak, her voice low and steady, filled with the simple truths of her village. She told Jormungandr about the parched earth, not as a complaint, but as a shared sorrow. She spoke of the thirsty animals, the wilting plants, the quiet despair of her people. She didn't blame the serpent. She simply shared the burden, inviting it to remember the feeling of life, of growth, of the gentle cycle it once sustained. "Great serpent," she murmured, her gaze fixed on its immense, cloud-like form, "the land remembers your tears. The moss longs for your gentle touch. The rivers yearn for your flowing sorrow. Your weeping brings life, not just water, but renewal, growth, a quiet song of hope." She spoke of the small miracles of her village, the warmth of the hearth, the laughter of children, the resilience of the Icelandic horse, the quiet wisdom of the puffins. She painted a picture of life, of beauty, of the delicate balance that Jormungandr's tears once sustained. She spoke not of grand sagas, but of the quiet, everyday moments that made life precious, moments that were now fading under the relentless sun. The Cloud Serpent shifted again, a slow, almost imperceptible tremor that rippled through its vast form. The air grew heavy, thick with unspoken emotion. Astrid felt a chill, not of cold, but of immense, ancient grief. She knew she was touching something vast and vulnerable, a sorrow that had accumulated over eons. She continued to play, her flute a soft, persistent whisper against the overwhelming silence of the mountains. She spoke of her grandmother, Solveig, and her quiet wisdom. "My grandmother taught me that true strength is not in holding back, but in allowing oneself to feel, to release. Your tears, Jormungandr, are not a sign of weakness, but of your boundless compassion, your connection to the very life of Midgard." She spoke of the cycle of water, how it rose from the sea as mist, formed clouds, fell as rain, flowed through rivers, and returned to the ocean. She reminded the serpent of its ancient purpose, its vital role in this endless, gentle dance. "You are the giver of life, Jormungandr. Your sorrow is the wellspring of our world. Do not hold it back." As Astrid spoke, a single, ethereal drop of moisture formed on the vast, gray coil of the Cloud Serpent. It shimmered, catching the pale light, then slowly, deliberately began to fall. It was not a tear of sadness, but a tear of remembrance, a tear of release. Astrid watched, her breath hitched in her throat, her heart swelling with a quiet awe. Then another drop formed, and another. Slowly, steadily, the ethereal tears began to fall, shimmering, silent, almost invisible in the thin mountain air. They were not heavy raindrops, but a gentle mist, a soft caress on the parched earth. Astrid closed her eyes, feeling the first cool touch on her face, a blessing from the sky. The Cloud Serpent continued to weep, its immense form slowly dissolving into a gentle, persistent rain. The sorrow that had veiled its being began to lift, replaced by a quiet, serene presence. The sky, though still gray with the serpent's form, no longer felt oppressive, but nurturing, life-giving. Jormungandr was not gone. It was simply transformed, its essence now flowing as rain, returning to its ancient purpose. Astrid remained on the plateau, sitting in the gentle, steady rain, her face turned upwards, feeling the cool drops on her skin. The dry, cracked earth around her began to soften, absorbing the life-giving moisture. The air filled with the fresh, invigorating scent of wet soil and growing things. The silence was replaced by the soft, rhythmic patter of rain, a lullaby of renewal. She knew the rain would continue for days, perhaps weeks, a slow, steady blessing from the Cloud Serpent. She knew that Jormungandr had remembered its purpose, its connection to Midgard, its boundless compassion. And she knew that her village, Skogium, would awaken to a world reborn. When Astrid finally descended the mountain, her clothes damp but her spirit light, the valley was already transforming. The parched earth was drinking deeply, the streams were beginning to murmur, and a faint, green haze was already appearing on the withered meadows. The villagers, emerging from their longhouses, stood in the gentle rain, their faces upturned, tears mingling with the falling drops. They did not know the full story of Astrid's journey, but they felt the profound blessing, the quiet miracle that had touched their land. Astrid became a quiet legend in Skogium. She did not boast of her journey, nor did she seek praise. She simply continued her life, tending her sheep, mending nets, and sitting by the hearth with her grandmother, Solveig. But her eyes held a deeper knowing, a quiet understanding of the ancient forces that governed their world. She had touched the heart of a sorrowful giant, and in doing so, had brought life back to her people. And from that day forward, whenever the rains came, gentle and persistent, the people of Skogium would remember Astrid's courage and the silent, sorrowful weeping of the Cloud Serpent, Jormungandr, whose tears brought life and renewal to their beloved land. The rhythm of rain became a lullaby, a soothing reminder of balance restored, of compassion shared, and of the enduring peace found in the heart of the world. The long days of rain that followed Astrid's journey were a blessing, a slow, deliberate healing for the parched land. The sky remained a soft, uniform gray, constantly weeping, yet without the harshness of a storm. It was a gentle, persistent murmur, a sound that permeated every corner of Skogium, seeping into the very foundations of the longhouses, calming the restless spirits within. The air, once dry and still, became soft and moist, carrying the fresh, earthy scent of rejuvenated soil and the sweet aroma of new growth. The streams, once barely trickles, swelled with clear, cold water, their gentle gurgle a joyous song of return. The river, which had exposed its rocky bed, now flowed with a steady, comforting current, its surface reflecting the soft, diffused light of the weeping sky. The villagers, initially hesitant, soon shed their anxieties, allowing the rain to wash over them, cleansing not just the land, but their own weary spirits. They would stand outside their longhouses, faces upturned, hands outstretched, feeling the cool, life-giving drops on their skin, a silent communion with the sky. The meadows, once brittle and brown, began to transform. A faint, vibrant green emerged from the dust, spreading slowly, steadily, like a gentle wave across the valley. The withered stalks of the garden softened, and tiny, hopeful shoots pushed their way through the damp earth. The cattle, their ribs no longer stark against their hides, grazed with a newfound contentment, their lowing a soft, satisfied hum. The sounds of life, once muted by drought, slowly returned, the chirping of birds, the buzzing of insects, the distant bleating of sheep in the revitalized pastures. Astrid, though celebrated by her people, remained as humble as ever. She spent her days helping her mother tend the now recovering gardens, her hands gently working the soft, moist soil. She would often walk to the river, sitting by its banks, listening to its murmurs, feeling the subtle pulse of the earth. She knew that Jormungandr's sorrow had not vanished entirely, but it had transformed. Its tears were no longer tears of despair, but of release, of connection, of a renewed understanding of its ancient purpose. The serpent's presence, though unseen, was now a comforting force, a silent guardian of the clouds, ensuring the gentle flow of life-giving moisture. Old Solveig, her grandmother, would watch Astrid with knowing eyes. "The land remembers, little one," she would say, her voice soft as a whisper. And the sky remembers. You have reminded them both of their ancient bond. Solveig taught Astrid more songs, not just chants for rain, but melodies for gratitude, for balance, for the quiet harmony between all things. They would sit by the hearth, the fire's crackle mingling with the gentle patter of rain on the turf roof, their voices blending in ancient lullabies that spoke of the earth's bounty and the sky's benevolence. The story of Astrid and the Cloud Serpent became a new legend in Skogium, passed down from parent to child, not as a tale of fear, but of compassion and courage. It taught them that even the most formidable beings could carry deep sorrow, and that empathy could unlock the greatest blessings. It reminded them that the world was interconnected, that the health of the land was tied to the spirit of the sky, and that even the smallest act of kindness could bring forth immense change. As the seasons turned, Skogium flourished. The summers were green and abundant. The winters brought soft, generous snows. The people lived with a renewed sense of gratitude and a deeper respect for the natural world. They learned to listen to the whispers of the wind, to the murmur of the rivers, to the gentle sigh of the earth, understanding that these were the voices of the ancient ones, guiding them in quiet harmony. Astrid, now an elder herself, would often climb to the high plateau, not out of desperation, but out of reverence. She would sit among the smooth, ancient rocks, and sometimes, if the air was still enough, she would feel a subtle shift in the clouds above, a faint, rhythmic pulse that spoke of Jormungandr's serene presence. She would play her bone flute, not a plea, but a song of gratitude, a melody of peace that drifted upwards, carried on the thin mountain air, a silent conversation between the human heart and the cosmic serpent. The Cloud Serpent, Jormungandr, continued its silent vigil, its vast form now a gentle presence in the heavens. Its tears, when they fell, were always soft, always life-giving, a continuous blessing upon Midgard. The sorrow that had once bound it had transformed into a quiet, enduring compassion, a deep connection to the life it sustained. It had remembered its purpose, and in that remembrance, it had found its own peaceful place in the cosmic dance. And so, the rains would fall, gentle and persistent, a lullaby for the land. The rivers would flow, clear and strong, their murmurs a song of renewal. The forests would breathe, lush and vibrant, their ancient trees whispering tales of resilience. And the people of Skogium would sleep soundly in their longhouses, their dreams filled with the soft patter of rain on the roof, the scent of damp earth, and the comforting presence of the Cloud Serpent, whose gentle tears brought life and peace to their beloved land, ensuring the rhythm of balance, compassion, and enduring harmony for all time. The years flowed like the revitalized rivers of Skogium, each season bringing its own quiet blessings. The memory of the great drought, though never forgotten, softened into a cautionary tale, a reminder of the delicate balance that sustained their world. Astrid, now a revered elder, continued her quiet guardianship, her connection to the Cloud Serpent, Jormungandr, deepening with each passing year. She was not a seer in the traditional sense, nor a shaman, but a bridge, a silent communicator between her people and the vast, elemental forces of the Norse cosmos. Her days were filled with simple, rhythmic tasks. Tending her flock, mending the fishing nets that now brought abundant catches from the fjord, and, most importantly, listening. She listened to the whispers of the wind through the mountain passes, discerning the subtle changes in its tone that spoke of Jormungandr's mood. She listened to the particular way the clouds gathered, not with fear, but with a knowing anticipation, understanding the serpent's gentle intentions. She taught the younger generations of Skogium to do the same, to cultivate a deep, intuitive connection to their environment, to read the unspoken language of nature. The bone flute, once an instrument of desperate plea, became a tool of serene communion. Astrid would play it on quiet evenings, not to summon rain, but to offer gratitude, to send a melody of peace upwards to the vast, unseen coils of the Cloud Serpent. The notes would drift into the twilight, mingling with the scent of wood smoke and damp earth, a silent conversation between the human heart and the cosmic guardian. Sometimes, in response, the aurora would shimmer with a particular intensity, or a gentle, ethereal mist would drift through the valley, a silent acknowledgement from Jormungandr. The children of Skogium grew up with the story of Astrid and the Cloud Serpent as a foundational legend. They learned that even the most immense and ancient beings could feel sorrow, and that compassion was a force capable of healing not just hearts, but entire landscapes. They were taught that their well-being was inextricably linked to the well-being of the world around them, and that respect for nature was not merely a custom, but a vital necessity. They would often draw pictures of the Cloud Serpent, its vast, gentle form coiling peacefully among the stars, its eyes radiating a quiet, ancient wisdom. The village itself evolved, not through grand innovations, but through a deepening of its existing harmony with the land. The longhouses were built with an even greater reverence for the earth, their turf roofs blending seamlessly into the hillsides, their timber frames echoing the strength of the ancient forests. The geothermal springs, once merely sources of warmth, became sacred sites of quiet reflection, places where villagers would gather to meditate on the earth's gentle breath, its ceaseless, life-giving pulse. The cycle of water, once taken for granted, became a source of constant wonder and gratitude. The journey of the rain, from the sky to the earth, through the rivers and back to the sea, was seen as Jormungandr's endless, benevolent dance. The villagers understood that the serpent's tears were not finite, but a continuous expression of its connection to Midgard, a perpetual act of nourishment. This understanding fostered a deep sense of security, a quiet confidence that the land would always provide, as long as they honored its rhythms. Astrid's influence extended beyond Skogium. Whispers of the Cloud Weaver, for so she became known, though she wove no threads, reached neighboring settlements. Travelers, burdened by their own struggles, would seek her out, not for magic, but for her quiet wisdom. She would offer no grand solutions, only a warm seat by her hearth, a cup of herbal tea, and a gentle story about the patience of the land, the resilience of the puffins, or the enduring strength of the Icelandic horse. She would speak of Jormungandr, not as a fearsome beast, but as a sorrowful giant who had remembered its compassion, and in doing so, had brought life back to the world. Her words, imbued with the calm of her own spirit, often had a profound effect, soothing restless minds and inspiring a renewed sense of hope. She taught them that sometimes the greatest acts of courage were not in battle, but in empathy, not in conquering, but in connecting. She showed them that listening, truly listening, to the silent language of the world could unlock hidden blessings. Her presence was a testament to the power of gentle strength, a beacon of peace in a world often consumed by turmoil. As Astrid's own life approached its quiet close, she spent more and more time on the high plateau, sitting in silent communion with the sky. Her hair, once the color of flax, was now as white as the snow on the distant peaks. Her hands, though gnarled, still held the bone flute with a delicate touch. She felt Jormungandr's presence more clearly than ever, not as a distant entity, but as a vast, encompassing embrace, a silent, comforting presence that filled the entire sky. One serene evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the clouds in hues of rose and violet, Astrid played her flute one last time. It was a melody of gratitude, a farewell, and a promise. The notes drifted upwards, carried on the thin mountain air, mingling with the gentle murmur of the wind. Above her, the clouds shifted, forming a vast, serpentine shape, its edges shimmering with ethereal light. It was a silent acknowledgement, a final blessing from the Cloud Serpent. Astrid closed her eyes, a gentle smile on her lips, and her spirit, light and free, drifted upwards, merging with the vast, comforting coils of Jormungandr, becoming a part of the sky she had so lovingly healed. She was not gone, but transformed, another gentle guardian woven into the fabric of the clouds, forever watching over Skogium. Solveig, Astrid's own grandchild, now a young woman, took up the mantle of Hearthkeeper and Cloud Listener. She had learned from Astrid not just the stories, but the spirit behind them, the quiet observation, the deep empathy, the unwavering belief in the interconnectedness of all things. She would continue the tradition, her voice a soothing balm, her heart attuned to the whispers of the land and the gentle sighs of the Cloud Serpent. And so, the rains would fall, gentle and persistent, a lullaby for the land. The rivers would flow, clear and strong, their murmurs a song of renewal. The forests would breathe, lush and vibrant, their ancient trees whispering tales of resilience. And the people of Skogium would sleep soundly in their longhouses, their dreams filled with the soft patter of rain on the roof, the scent of damp earth, and the comforting presence of the Cloud Serpent, Jormungandr, whose gentle tears brought life and peace to their beloved land, ensuring the rhythm of balance, compassion, and enduring harmony for all time. The whispers of the sky were eternal, carrying the story of Astrid and the Cloud Serpent forever onward, a gentle, unending narrative of the North, a perpetual lullaby for a world in slumber, a testament to the enduring peace found in the heart of nature. The passage of seasons continued to weave its intricate tapestry across the land of Skogium. Spring brought bursts of vibrant green, the melting snows feeding the rejuvenated streams, their waters rushing with a joyful energy. Summer bathed the valley in long, soft daylight, allowing the meadows to flourish and the crops to ripen under a sky that, though often clear, now carried the promise of gentle, life-giving rain when needed. Autumn painted the forests in fiery hues, a celebration of bounty before the quiet surrender to winter's embrace. And winter, though cold and dark, was softened by the knowledge that the Cloud Serpent watched over them, its presence a comforting blanket of snow and a silent promise of renewal. The people of Skogium had learned to live with a deeper awareness, a quiet reverence for the cycles of their world. They understood that every element, the earth, the water, the sky, the very air they breathed, was imbued with a living spirit, and that harmony with these spirits was the key to their well-being. Their daily lives became a form of gentle meditation, each task performed with a mindful presence. The tending of the animals, the crafting of tools, the preparation of meals, all were acts of connection to the land and its benevolent forces. The Longhouse, once a place where anxieties were often whispered in the shadows, now hummed with a quiet contentment. The hearth fire, tended with meticulous care, cast a steady, warm glow, its crackle a soothing counterpoint to the gentle sounds of the village. Children played with a quiet joy, their games reflecting the stories they heard. Pretending to be puffins patiently waiting out a storm, or Icelandic horses bravely enduring a blizzard. They learned early that strength was found not in loudness, but in resilience, and that true power lay in gentle purpose. Solveig, the new Hearthkeeper and Cloud Listener, carried the legacy of Ari and Astrid with a calm grace. Her voice, though young, held the same soothing resonance, and her eyes, like Astrid's before her, saw beyond the visible, discerning the subtle energies that permeated their world. She continued the tradition of the bone flute, her melodies now woven with gratitude and quiet reverence, drifting upwards to the vast, unseen coils of Jormungandr. She would often sit on the high plateau, not to plead, but to simply be present, to offer a silent communion with the sorrowful yet benevolent giant of the skies. She taught the young ones to feel the shift in the air before a gentle rain, to recognize the particular scent of moisture carried on the wind, to observe the subtle changes in the clouds that indicated Jormungandr's presence. "The serpent speaks not in words," she would explain, her voice soft, but in whispers of mist, in the soft touch of falling drops. "Listen with your heart, not just your ears." This teaching fostered a generation deeply attuned to nature, their senses honed by a lifetime of quiet observation. The Cloud Serpent, Jormungandr, continued its silent vigil over Midgard. Its immense form, now a constant, gentle presence in the heavens, was no longer burdened by the deep sorrow that had once veiled its being. The tears it shed were now tears of connection, of compassion, of a renewed understanding of its ancient purpose. Its very existence was a continuous act of nourishment, a perpetual blessing upon the land it encircled. The subtle shifts in its cloud-like coils were a cosmic dance of balance, ensuring that the rains fell gently, the winds blew softly, and the skies remained a source of wonder rather than fear. The aurora borealis, the dancing lights of the north, often mingled with Jormungandr's cloud form, creating breathtaking displays of ethereal beauty. The emerald greens and violet hues would shimmer through the serpent's vast coils, as if the very light of the cosmos was embracing the ancient being. These celestial interactions were seen by the people of Skogium as a sign of profound harmony, a testament to the interconnectedness of all realms, from the deepest earth to the highest heavens. The legends of Skogium grew, not of conquest or grand battles, but of quiet endurance, of compassionate understanding, and of the gentle miracles that sustained life. The story of Astrid and the Cloud Serpent became a timeless narrative, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming despair, a single act of empathy could transform the world. It taught them that true power lay not in dominance, but in humility, not in control, but in harmony. And so, the rhythm of life in Skogium continued, a gentle, unwavering flow. The rains would fall, soft and persistent, a lullaby for the land. The rivers would flow, clear and strong, their murmurs a song of renewal. The forests would breathe, lush and vibrant, their ancient trees whispering tales of resilience. And the people of Skogium would sleep soundly in their longhouses, their dreams filled with the soft patter of rain on the roof, the scent of damp earth, and the comforting presence of the Cloud Serpent, Jormungandr, whose gentle tears brought life and peace to their beloved land, ensuring the rhythm of balance, compassion, and enduring harmony for all time. The whispers of the sky were eternal, carrying the story of Astrid and the Cloud Serpent forever onward, a gentle, unending narrative of the North, a perpetual lullaby for a world in slumber, a testament to the enduring peace found in the heart of nature. The very air of the valley, now consistently moist and fresh, carried a subtle vitality, a testament to the renewed health of the land. The subtle scent of damp earth and growing things became a constant, comforting presence, a reminder of the life-giving cycle that had been restored. The light, even on overcast days, seemed softer, diffused by the benevolent cloud cover, creating a perpetually serene atmosphere. Skogium was not just a village, it was a living sanctuary, a place where harmony between humans and nature was deeply ingrained. The children of Skogium, growing up in this era of renewed balance, developed a unique sensitivity to their environment. They learned to identify the different sounds of the wind, the soft sigh that preceded a gentle mist, the low hum that indicated a distant, light rain, the whisper that carried the scent of blooming wildflowers. They played games that mimicked the quiet movements of the Cloud Serpent, tracing serpentine patterns in the snow or on the damp earth, their laughter soft and melodious, never jarring the tranquility of the valley. They understood, instinctively, that their well-being was tied to the well-being of the land and the sky, and they nurtured this connection with a natural reverence. The village's relationship with the mountains also transformed. Once seen as formidable barriers, they were now viewed as silent guardians, their peaks often veiled by the gentle clouds that were Jormungandr's visible form. Climbing the lower slopes became a meditative practice, a way to connect with the earth's quiet strength and the sky's expansive peace. The smooth, ancient rocks, once symbols of unyielding hardship, were now seen as repositories of ancient wisdom, their surfaces cool and comforting to the touch, echoing the timeless presence of the Cloud Serpent. Solveig, the hearth keeper and cloud listener, continued to guide her people with a quiet strength. Her stories, told by the crackling fire on long winter nights, were not just narratives, but living lessons. She would describe the subtle shifts in Jormungandr's cloud form, teaching the villagers to read the sky as a book of intentions. A particularly dense, gray cloud might indicate a need for quiet rest and introspection in the village, while a lighter, more ethereal mist might signal a time for gentle communal work and shared celebration. Her interpretations were never commands, but gentle suggestions, allowing each individual to find their own harmony with the cosmic rhythms. The bone flute, now passed down to Solveig, became an even more potent symbol of communion. She would play it not only on the plateau, but sometimes from the longhouse door, her melodies drifting across the valley, a silent conversation with the Cloud Serpent. The notes were always soft, imbued with gratitude and a deep sense of peace, a continuous offering of human harmony to the celestial guardian. It was said that on nights when Solveig played, the aurora would dance with a particular grace, its colors shimmering with a heightened vibrancy, a silent response from Jormungandr. The village feasts, once boisterous affairs, now held a deeper sense of quiet gratitude. The food, abundant and nourishing, was consumed with a mindful appreciation for the land's generosity and the sky's benevolence. The songs sung were often gentle lullabies, celebrating the cycles of nature, the resilience of their people, and the enduring peace brought by the Cloud Serpent's tears. Laughter was soft and warm, mingling with the crackle of the fire, a sound of contentment rather than exuberance. The concept of sorrow itself transformed in Skogium. It was no longer seen as a weakness to be hidden, but as a natural part of the cycle of life, capable of bringing forth immense beauty and renewal, just as Jormungandr's sorrow had brought forth the life-giving rain. This understanding fostered a culture of empathy and acceptance, where individuals were encouraged to share their burdens, knowing that collective compassion could soothe even the deepest grief. As Solveig aged, her hair turning to silver like the mist on the mountains, she began to teach her own grandchild, a young boy named Bjorn, the ancient ways. Bjorn, with his quiet nature and keen eyes, absorbed every lesson. He learned to listen to the whispers of the wind, to read the subtle language of the clouds, and to understand the deep connection between the human heart and the cosmic forces. He would sit by Solveig's side, his small hand resting on the smooth bone flute, his spirit open to the ancient wisdom. And so, the legacy of Astrid and the Cloud Serpent continued, woven into the very fabric of Skogium. The village remained a sanctuary of peace, its people living in harmony with the land and the sky, guided by the gentle tears of Jormungandr. The rhythm of life was a continuous lullaby, a testament to balance, compassion, and enduring harmony. The whispers of the sky were eternal, carrying the story of Astrid and the Cloud Serpent forever onward, a gentle, unending narrative of the North, a perpetual lullaby for a world in slumber, a testament to the enduring peace found in the heart of nature. The very air of the valley, now consistently moist and fresh, carried a subtle vitality, a testament to the renewed health of the land. The subtle scent of damp earth and growing things became a constant, comforting presence, a reminder of the life-giving cycle that had been restored. The light, even on overcast days, seemed softer, diffused by the benevolent cloud cover, creating a perpetually serene atmosphere. Skogium was not just a village, it was a living sanctuary, a place where harmony between humans and nature was deeply ingrained. The air was so pure, so imbued with the essence of the Cloud Serpent's gentle breath, that breathing felt like a meditation in itself, filling the lungs with calm and clarity. The children of Skogium, growing up in this era of renewed balance, developed a unique sensitivity to their environment. They learned to identify the different sounds of the wind, the soft sigh that preceded a gentle mist, the low hum that indicated a distant, light rain, the whisper that carried the scent of blooming wildflowers. They played games that mimicked the quiet movements of the Cloud Serpent, tracing serpentine patterns in the snow or on the damp earth, their laughter soft and melodious, never jarring the tranquility of the valley. They understood, instinctively, that their well-being was tied to the well-being of the land and the sky, and they nurtured this connection with a natural reverence, their small hands often reaching out to touch the moss-covered rocks, or to feel the gentle patter of rain on their faces. The village's relationship with the mountains also transformed. Once seen as formidable barriers, they were now viewed as silent guardians, their peaks often veiled by the gentle clouds that were Jormungandr's visible form. Climbing the lower slopes became a meditative practice, a way to connect with the earth's quiet strength and the sky's expansive peace. The smooth, ancient rocks, once symbols of unyielding hardship, were now seen as repositories of ancient wisdom, their surfaces cool and comforting to the touch, echoing the timeless presence of the Cloud Serpent. They were places for quiet reflection, for observing the vastness of the world and finding one's peaceful place within it. Solveig, the hearthkeeper and cloud listener, continued to guide her people with a quiet strength. Her stories, told by the crackling fire on long winter nights, were not just narratives, but living lessons. She would describe the subtle shifts in Jormungandr's cloud form, teaching the villagers to read the sky as a book of intentions. A particularly dense, gray cloud might indicate a need for quiet rest and introspection in the village, a time for deep sleep and restorative dreams. While a lighter, more ethereal mist might signal a time for gentle communal work and shared celebration, a period of light activity and joyful connection. Her interpretations were never commands, but gentle suggestions, allowing each individual to find their own harmony with the cosmic rhythms, fostering a sense of personal responsibility and inner peace. The bone flute, now passed down to Solveig, became an even more potent symbol of communion. She would play it not only on the plateau, but sometimes from the longhouse door, her melodies drifting across the valley, a silent conversation with the Cloud Serpent. The notes were always soft, imbued with gratitude and a deep sense of peace, a continuous offering of human harmony to the celestial guardian. It was said that on nights when Solveig played, the aurora would dance with a particular grace, its colors shimmering with a heightened vibrancy, a silent response from Jormungandr, a cosmic embrace of the human spirit. The village feasts, once boisterous affairs, now held a deeper sense of quiet gratitude. The food, abundant and nourishing, was consumed with a mindful appreciation for the land's generosity and the sky's benevolence. The songs sung were often gentle lullabies, celebrating the cycles of nature, the resilience of their people, and the enduring peace brought by the Cloud Serpent's tears. Laughter was soft and warm, mingling with the crackle of the fire, a sound of contentment rather than exuberance, a symphony of quiet joy. The concept of sorrow itself transformed in Skogium. It was no longer seen as a weakness to be hidden, but as a natural part of the cycle of life, capable of bringing forth immense beauty and renewal, just as Jormungandr's sorrow had brought forth the life-giving rain. This understanding fostered a culture of empathy and acceptance, where individuals were encouraged to share their burdens, knowing that collective compassion could soothe even the deepest grief. Mourning was a quiet, shared experience, leading to a gentle release and eventual renewal, mirroring the serpent's own journey. As Solveig aged, her hair turning to silver like the mist on the mountains, she began to teach her own grandchild, a young boy named Bjorn, the ancient ways. Bjorn, with his quiet nature and keen eyes, absorbed every lesson. He learned to listen to the whispers of the wind, to read the subtle language of the clouds, and to understand the deep connection between the human heart and the cosmic forces. He would sit by Solveig's side, his small hand resting on the smooth bone flute, his spirit open to the ancient wisdom, ready to carry on the sacred tradition. And so, the legacy of Astrid and the Cloud Serpent continued, woven into the very fabric of Skogium. The village remained a sanctuary of peace, its people living in harmony with the land and the sky, guided by the gentle tears of Jormungandr. The rhythm of life was a continuous lullaby, a testament to balance, compassion, and enduring harmony. The whispers of the sky were eternal, carrying the story of Astrid and the Cloud Serpent forever onward, a gentle, unending narrative of the North, a perpetual lullaby for a world in slumber, a testament to the enduring peace found in the heart of nature.